Wraith, the apparition of a person living or thought to be alive, supposed to appear around the time of his death, a ghost, or any apparition. Wraith demons are low-tier demons, able to possess humans. True story coming up next on Survivor Angels.
It's time for Survivor Angels, an approach to strengthen trauma survivors. Here, you can escape what draws negativity and engage your positive abilities and the gifts that you've always had. Let's activate your angels. And to help you on that journey, here's Chaplain Jodi.
Welcome, Alicia, to Survivor Angels.
Thank you. It's nice to see you, Jodi.
I know, it's great to see you. It's been a couple of months since we were together.
I know.
Well, and the last time that Alicia and I were together, it's actually when we met. And she told me about her life where I stood there, I think, with my jaw on the floor the entire time. And so I am just basically going to turn this over to Alicia, and please listen very carefully to everything that she is about to tell you. It's all yours, Alicia.
Thank you, Jodi. So as she said, my name is Alicia Carver. For background content, I am a bilateral below the knee amputee. I've been one for about 10 years. My right leg has been gone 10 years. My left leg has been gone 8 years. I was just born with conditions that just didn't make my ankle joints correct. And I've had a life of surgeries, pain. We got to a point where I wanted to live life. I wanted a quality of life, and I chose to have both legs amputated. And honestly, I have a better life than I ever had with my own limbs. It's built me into a very strong individual, a very resilient individual. It definitely added a layer to my life I never knew I needed and never knew I'd get so much joy out of. What Jodi was referring to is my family. My grandfather has been gone 8 years. My family is now in the wraps of a Wraith who is very negative to us. I didn't really understand it for a while. We saw after his passing just the curtains would move and there's no airflow going. Upstairs on the landing, you would see a shadow go by. Nothing that was really alarming to us, that we just said, oh, it's just our loved one. He's just here. He's hanging out. Cool. He wasn't really, bothering us. He would just show himself. But as the years passed, negative energy just started to encapsulate that house, to the point where it was starting to affect my family. It started with my father. My father's just a great man, but he's a workaholic and always stressed. So he's a very easy target. Just because he's very stressed all the time, he can just be attached to a little easier. He was having very vivid night terrors to the point he would wake up dead sweating, in tears. He just thought it was stress induced. And my mom kind of said, Dad's having these things going on. And I was like, well, I don't really understand this, but I have dear friends who are Native Americans and have abilities. And I kind of was talking to them and they're like, this is what you got. Like, we can feel it. We can see it on you. I went to Columbus, Ohio to sit in front of them so that they could kind of help me to really figure out what it was. One dear friend, she has great abilities and you have to sit in front of her and she can taste it. It's just the energy you give off. She can taste it. She can see it. Her spirit guides come to her and kind of show her different images to where she can help me see what it's doing and how it's attached and who it was. My grandfather, I call him Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. He had two personalities. I was protected my whole life from him, his negative side. I only had good memories of him, And I attribute that to my parents only letting me see the good side of my grandfather. My grandfather was abused as a child. And I'm not talking abuse. I am talking beating. He was beat by his father. He was beat by his stepfather. Horrible abuse. I have talked with a few very well-known psychics, and the images that my grandfather shows them makes them cry of how horrendous it was. My grandfather was then in the Navy. That was probably one of his happiest times of his life. He was always took very vivid photos and memories and talked about it. He came home after the war. He was on an ammunition ship in the Navy. And, you know, he married my grandmother. They had 5 children. But my father didn't really start telling me about his childhood until after his dad was gone. Because till the end of my grandfather's life, they wanted me to have good memories. And then my dad started to kind of reveal kind of his childhood and how my grandfather carried out the abuse. So it continued another generation. I'm happy to say my father broke the generational curse. He wanted to make sure I never saw anything like that. And I was only shown love and kindness by my parents. So I attribute that to my father for breaking the curse. That I'm sure went back many generations on my grandfather's side of the family. So that attributes to the negativity my grandfather had. I didn't find out kind of the abuse he did to his own wife, my grandmother, until her Alzheimer's really took a hold of her. And I'd found, just cleaning out the house a little bit and tidying up, journals that she wrote of the abuse that my grandfather did to her. And it was anything from not speaking to her, degrading her, to the point where he almost tried to kill her a few times. He would point a gun at her and then ask her if she was ready to die. And she'd always beg and plead. And then he would shoot right past her. And she would journal and tell the exact locations of where the gunshots were. And you could go through the house and see where they were patched up.
Sure.
So, but in the end, she blocked all that out. She always said her husband was a kind and loving. He was a good man. Her, I guess, coping mechanism was just to block it out. But the journals in her hand tell a different story of just how nasty my grandfather was. So I think all of that negativity after he died, I didn't cleanse the house. It was just festering. Now, the house that they lived in, they were there for 64 years.
Wow.
My grandparents built that together. It was kind of like a single unit house, and they added, a second floor. They added out, they built it how they wanted it. The house itself sits right next door to a church. On the property literally between us and our house is a natural spring in the ground that we own. And then on the back side of the property is a natural running creek. And the house is built on a stone foundation. So I just have a lot of things that just add up to give negativity a power and to let it feast from it and gain strength. That I didn't know really how powerful it could be. Just the simple things after my grandfather's death. We were just like, okay, it's just grandpa, cool. You would be poked in the middle of the night and you could feel a finger going into your back. And I was like, okay, that's just, grandpa. Okay. But then it started gaining strength to where it could touch you and you could feel a solid handprint on you when you're sleeping. You're like, okay, I don't really like that. That's a little much. But then it would go away. As the years passed, his wraith grew strength and you could physically see it. He always the wraith always showed itself to us as a family We'd be sitting in their living room, and kind of, if you're facing this way, the dining room is off to the right, and it's a doorway to the dining room, because actually the living room was an old garage. So, it's been pieced together. But you would see its head poke around the corner, like it was just peeking at you, just ducking, kind of looking at you. First time I saw it, I was like, what was that? Because I had seen my grandfather previously kind of in the shape and kind of image that he was closer to death. So I've seen him two different ways. The Wraith looks like him younger, but it's always dark. Dark hair, dark eyes, dark mouth.
Okay.
And, the first time, like I said, the first time you see it, you're like, did I see that? Did I? You're trying to reason with the logical side of your brain of saying, oh, something, it was fine, but it kept happening. You're like, no, I saw that. So then I was like, okay, I need to figure out what this is. What does it want? Can we live cohesively together? But then, the things, my father, just his nightmares became worse. He had a personality shift. It was really affecting him. And I finally just said, no, I got to fix this. My grandmother's Alzheimer's was getting worse, and I knew she was close to passing on to the next life. And I wanted to do anything I could to make it as peaceful for her. She was a great woman. She was a loving woman. I wanted her to go peacefully. And I didn't care what I had to do, who I had to talk to, who I had to bring in to make sure I could pass her and make sure she transitioned to the next life just as peaceful as possible. So my dear friends, they helped me. We blessed the house. We protected the house. We've sealed the house. We have amulets in the house. We have spells in the house to make sure that Wraith stays where we put it. It currently resides in the basement most of the time. We kind of moved it and put it down there. My grandma was able to pass just as peaceful. I know she did. She passed with a kind of a calmness about her face. And then we used, literally, as soon as I was there when she died, as soon as I realized she was gone, I opened up a spirit box just to see if anybody would give me any sort of, we've got her, make sure her family came forward to get her. And they did. They gave me confirmation. Literally, I'm holding it over her body, waiting for the nurses in the corner to come, to take her away. And the spirit box says, Grandma, Grandma, Grandma. And I asked, Grandma, are you okay? Okay. Okay. And then I said, are you safe? I'm fine. And that's all it ever said. So right there, I got real, I opened the window so her soul could leave the house, but I still got confirmation that she was okay. She was safe. She made it over there fine. And that was my goal in life, just to make sure she did. And I was so appreciative of that she came back through and said, you did it. Good job. Mm-hmm. And that really, it brought me so much peace. I knew I did my job. But now that she's gone, the house sits empty. The Wraith is being able to fester again. I've been back there in the last 3 weeks 2 times to that house. I sit in the house when it's dark and quiet. Nothing is on. No background noise. My dog usually comes with me. He was asleep. Nothing else is in the house. 2 weeks ago, I heard someone in the next room cough. Right at that moment, you're just like, kind of your heart's racing and you're just frozen. Mm-hmm. Like, did I hear that? And you're like, no, I heard that. I was like, okay. So then I just get up and I start walking. I was like, who is it? Is anybody going to show themselves? I have a spirit box going to kind of just, see if anybody wants to communicate. No one really does. And I was like, okay. So I just go back into the living room and sit down. Then I hear scratching. I was like, I don't like that. That's something I don't like to hear. I don't like coughing and I don't like scratching. And you're like, okay, I know you're here. Let's take a beat. Let myself just internally calm down a little bit because, my heart's racing. I know what I'm hearing. But then, the logical side of your brain is like, no, you didn't hear that. And you're like, no, I really did. So I know it's still in the house. I know we still have to either ground it or get rid of it. So the story's kind of still being wrote as far as that Wraith. My dad has also been back to the house probably 4 weeks ago, and he never really tells me anything because he's still in deciding what's real. What does he know? He's really not open to the spiritual side and the paranormal side. He's had the same experiences and has seen the Wraith and has seen my grandfather. So I think his experiences are opening himself to it more. Because when I told him, I just heard somebody cough in a text message, he goes, he got a clear vision of seeing my grandfather in the house.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, it's tied to us. It's showing itself to us. And I was like, okay. I didn't tell my dad. I got home last night from Indy. And I heard this when I was down there for 2 days, when I heard the scratching. And I didn't tell my dad anything about it. And I said, hey, did you happen to hear any other noises the house was giving you while you were down there? He goes, there was scratching noise. He goes, I just figured it was a mouse or something. And I was like, no. I was like, I heard it too. And it's scratching. So like the living room is right next door to the kitchen and the basement door is in the kitchen. And we keep that door shut and locked to the basement.
Okay.
But the basement doors, like the hinges make this distinct noise. It's old creaky door.
Right.
It makes a distinct noise and you can know, and the lock does too. If you're pushing on the door, the lock jingles a little bit and you can kind of hear the vibration of the lock and the scratching at the same time.
So I have a couple of questions.
Yeah.
How is your dad right now? That's my first one.
Since I've been able to protect the house and face the Wraith, his night terrors have stopped.
Okay.
He still gets visions. He's still, seeing the same seeing and hearing things in that house. But as far as his night terrors, he looks lighter. If you just look at him, he's lighter. His personality came back to normal. But it took probably 8 months of me, cleansing his house without his knowledge. Before we started to notice any changes. I'm really attracted to having bright white, milky quartz crystals. I just like the bright ones. And I have them here in my own house. I have them at my parents' house, and I've had them at my grandparents' house too.
Okay.
I also wear one when I go into that house. The one I was wearing turns gray over time. Okay. The ones in the house turn dark gray over time. I have to replace them probably every 6 to 7 months.
Okay.
I get rid of them properly and I replace them with new, bright, white, milky ones again. That's just what I'm attracted to. I just like the bright ones. And I think it's easier for me just learning about everything to see the color differences when they start to change.
Right.
But, it was shocking to me that my crystals were turning colors. So I'm texting my people I'm learning from. I'm like, hey, why is my, crystals changing colors? They're like, what color? And I was like, gray. And they're like, yeah, that's not good. That's negativity. And I was like, cool, that's good to know, So I'm still learning about like, what can I do to protect myself and my family? But it's a work in progress and I'm learning on the fly because we're having these real-time issues that are still happening that I'm trying to protect my family from.
And I mean, that's how all this works, whether we're talking about spirits, wraiths, angels, it's all a work in progress as far as our learning, because none of us ever will have all of the answers until we
No,
finally have crossed through that last dimension that we're supposed to cross through. And there it will be, and we'll go, oh yeah, that's it.
that makes
You
sense.
know, yeah. But so my next question is, when you heard the cough and when you hear the scratching, does it does it seem like it's coming from the other room, or is it coming from the basement and maybe is just amplified to make you think it's coming from the other room? What do you think?
So the coughing that I've heard, and it's always a single cough. It's a deep,
Okay.
single kind of gut cough.
Hmm.
The first time I thought I heard that, I thought it was coming from the kitchen,
Hmm.
which is where the basement door is located.
Right.
The second time I heard it, I thought maybe it was coming from the basement because this is an old house. The floors are
Right.
very thin.
Hmm.
And part of the house sits, over the basement.
Right.
So I think it's either coming from our kitchen or our basement. I
Okay.
never hear it upstairs when I'm sleeping, but I
Hmm.
also tell everything it needs to leave me alone when I'm sleeping.
Right.
I don't
Right.
want to communicate. Thank you very much. Talk to me
Hmm.
later. I never hear anything upstairs. The only thing we ever feel upstairs is being touched.
Right.
In the
Mhm.
rooms, either like in any of the bedrooms upstairs. That's usually where we never hear anything, but we're touched up there.
Right.
So I think it's still coming. It's still coming for where we have it. I'm
Hmm.
hoping, I'm praying that it just stays down there. Until we're ready
Right.
to get rid of it.
Yeah.
That's
Because
the process.
when you told me the story when we were standing in Bell, angels were telling me that the sounds were coming from the basement, that it's still in
Yeah.
the basement. And I didn't remember that until now as you're telling me the story again today. And the angels again are telling me the wraith is still in the basement.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah.
I think that's where it's coming from. And it just,
Hmm.
that basement door has been sealed, so it can't come upstairs. We hope.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
and so I'm, like I said, I tried to go down in the basement, but I always turn all the lights on. I don't like to go down there in the dark and at night. Like, I just stay out of that. Because like the
Yep.
laundry room's downstairs and like the basement door to walk outside's up down there. And so,
Uh-huh.
right now, I think the wraith is minding its manners. It knows I'm there. I think it really has only affected me one time.
Mhm.
I was driving after I'd gotten some guidance from my family friends, and I had my crystals, I had my protection spells in my car, and I was driving to that house. It blacked my vision out for about 20 minutes. I have no idea how I got there. I was probably within 10 minutes of the house, and it's a road I've driven my entire life.
Right.
I didn't get lost, and I didn't come to until I was 20 minutes past the house. So I hurry up and text my friends, and I was like, "Hey, what's going on? Like, did I just space out, or is the wraith know I'm coming for it now?"
Mhm.
And she's like, "No, it knows. If it's blacking out your vision that close to the house, it knows." So I think as soon as it did that, I had a wall. I was in protection mode. My
Right.
mission was to protect. I
Mhm.
didn't care what I had to do to it. And I pull into the house that same day, and the house just had this like dark aura around it because it knew I was coming for it, and it was pissed.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
that was the only time it's ever affected me. Um,
Okay.
so I think my life and my father breaking generational curses have built me to be strong enough to not be affected by it. And now I'm so aware of it that I know what it looks like. I know how it moves. I know it's now sounds that it's making. I'm not scared of it anymore, like I was, where I just felt like I had to be defensive of everything. I'm not scared of it. It knows I'm not scared of it. It doesn't really like that. But it knows that I just don't want it anymore.
Yeah. So correct me if I'm wrong.
No, go ahead.
But what I think has been happening through all of this is that everything with your grandfather, all the generational trauma, and the fact that it did go as far as your dad, and the fact that your dad said, never more, this is not going to happen ever again, that is why all the negativity in the form of the Wraith sort of raised its ugly head and said, try it, and has just been pushing to continue that negativity in your family's life.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is why it's so important to break that generational trauma.
Yeah. And I'm so proud of my father that he did. He broke it. I think it, like I said, it just added another layer to why I am now able to face this and handle this, and why it doesn't touch me. I don't allow it to. But it never, even when I didn't really understand, it never touched me. It only touched me once, as far as blacking out my vision. Other than that, it leaves me alone. It makes it, it shows itself to me. It tells me it's there, but it doesn't do anything to me, which I'm appreciative of.
Yes.
Thank you for that. But now we're just in the stage of just figuring out, all right, can we get it to what can we do to it? Can we truly banish it? Do I have to ground it there? My grandfather does a really great job. Now he's on the other side, coming through when I talk to really well-known psychics that have true abilities. He's always front and center. He knows the negativity is him. He's acknowledged it. He's sorry for it. He's sorry this is happening. But, the Wraith is released from him, so he has no control over it anymore.
Right.
So I'm appreciative that he's like I said, he communicates beautifully. And he was never in this realm of living. He was never really a paranormal or spiritual person.
Right.
But now he's learned so many lessons and has learned, seen his life and learned things that he now knows that, the negativity is him. He acknowledges it. He's sorry. And he's always front and center to say, hey, I know it's still there. Hang on. So I'm always appreciative that he does say hi.
Yes. Well, and hopefully now that he has had all of this revealed to him, and he is sorry, that will also help to sort of dissipate, if you will, the Wraith, knowing that the Wraith no longer has power from him.
Yeah.
There's no power coming from your family, no negativity.
Yeah.
And so hopefully the Wraith will maybe just sort of disappear.
We are hoping. I can't probably get rid of that property. I'm still in court trying to get, executor status.
Yeah.
So right now I just know it's just festering. It has nothing in that house to move its energy.
Right.
So, it's there. It's, it's coughs, it scratches. But we're just in a point of, all right, let's live with it until we can get rid of it. You stay in your area. I stay in mine. You're not allowed in my space, and we'll just work on it. So it's a moving story still. I don't know how it's going to end. What are we going to have to do to it? How mean and mad is it going to be once we start moving it?
Well, Alicia, I can't thank you enough for coming on and telling all of our viewers and listeners about this incredible piece of your life, which I'm sure some people are just sitting there going, no, that didn't happen. No, it couldn't have happened. But it's like, no, it's happened and it's still ongoing. And at some point down the line, I'm going to have you come back on and give us an update, because I'm
Yeah.
sure that you have people now that want to know, as to quote a really old person, Paul Harvey used to say, and now the rest of the story. So
Yeah.
thank you, Alicia.
Anytime. I'm happy. I think with us sharing stories of our different lives, maybe we can help people that are facing the same things and that are, maybe have the same experiences that I have, and be like, no, this is really happening to you. It's not in your imagination. These things are
Right.
real. They do affect you. They are, a powerful being. There's so much diversity and levels to our human form, our spiritual form, that even I'm still learning about, and I enjoy learning
Right.
about, and having the
Yeah.
experiences in this realm of living,
Mhm.
that, it's, even I'm still kind of like on pins and needles, like, how is this story going to end? What are we going to have to do to
Right.
it? Part of me is dreading it. Like, okay, I'm going to have to, make it a little mad, but I'm excited to see where the story leads us, and what, continues to happen as we kind of move through this as a family.
Right. Yep. And I mean, my best advice always, because it can never hurt, is I just tell people, activate your angels.
Yeah.
They're going to talk to you. They're going to give you words of protection and advice. And so keep your angels close.
Yeah. I know I have family angels. Um, I know they're both of my grandmothers. My mom's mother died when she was young, and she's always been my protector. I know she has. And I think my grandmother, now that she's on the other side, she knows what's happening in her house now. She's free from
Right.
Alzheimer's, and she's seeing it, what it's
Mhm.
doing. And I think those are my protectors. We also have a family member who is a priest, that's passed on. And I think I draw comfort in knowing that they're with me, that they're still there helping me. Maybe I don't always see their signs and understand how they communicate to me. But that's something I'm still open on learning about, of how they want to communicate to me. How are they going to give me signs and tell me messages?
Right. Yep. So until next time, Alicia, you take care. And I know that we're gonna be back to revisit this.
I will look forward to talking to you guys again and sharing how this story kind of ends.
Thanks again for joining Chaplain Jodi on Survivor Angels. For more information, go to chaplainjodi.me. That's chaplainjodi.me. And on Facebook at Survivor Angels-Chaplain Jodi. Sound effects for the show created by Andre Opate and provided by Pixbay. This is Dave Schrader. Until next time, sending you off to activate your angels.